My name is Sarah Martz. I'm the chair of the IUC. With me today are Commissioners Josh Burns and Eric Helland. It's 9 a.m. on September 10th of 2025, and this is the time set for the Commission's monthly meeting. Just a reminder, at the end of this meeting, we will have designated time for public comments. Public comments must be made in person and are to be no more than 3 minutes for each individual who chooses to speak. There was a sign-up sheet in the lobby before this meeting in which you could inform the commission if you have public comments. I will call those names in order of the individuals who have stated they would like to speak, at which time you may come up to the podium and make your comments. If you did not sign in yet, or you changed your mind and would like to make a public comment, please see the IUC staff in the lobby and add your name to the comment list. And I will go over this again when we get to the public comment portion of today's agenda. We will begin today with a motion to approve previous commission meeting minutes. I move for the approval of prior commission meeting minutes. Are there any objections?
Need a second? Okay.
Hearing none, the minutes are approved. We will now go to discussion items with Mr. Giddens first, who will present on RTO and federal regional updates.
Good morning, commissioners. I'm Eric Giddens, the Federal Regional Coordinator here at the Iowa Utilities Commission, and I'll provide you a brief update of our federal and regional work here at the Commission and some of the most current issues we're working on. Apologies. So first, for the benefit of the public, I'll review some basic information description of our federal and regional work that I shared at last month's meeting. First, the work we do here at the IUC is not done in a vacuum. Some aspects of utilities are regulated at the federal level, and some are regulated at the state level, like the work we do here at the IUC. So it's important for us to engage with federal agencies like the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, or FERC. Similarly, our electric utilities operate within large regional electricity systems that are operated by regional transmission organizations, or RTOs. The RTOs, which our Iowa utilities are members of, are the Mid-Continent Independent System Operator, or MISO, and the Southwest Power Pool, or SPP. It's important for the IUC to engage with these RTOs on policy development related to issues like transmission planning and associated cost allocation, which is what ratepayers will pay and how much they will pay for regional transmission infrastructure, and electricity generator interconnection and associated resource adequacy assurance, which means assuring a reliable supply of electricity to keep the lights on, because these policies impact our state and our ratepayers. This slide describes MISO, which is the RTO with the more significant presence in Iowa. I want to add that the interests of the states within the MISO region are represented by the independent organization called the Organization of MISO States, or OMS. The IUC's representative on the OMS board is Chair Martz. OMS member states collaborate to share information and resources, debate and exchange ideas on policy issues, and communicate their viewpoints. I'll note that while the OMS strives for agreement, each member state retains absolute autonomy to express its unique positions and be heard through OMS comments and filings. This slide describes the second RTO with a presence in Iowa, which is SPP. The interests of the states within the SPP region are represented by the Regional States Committee, or the RSC. The IUC's representative on the RSC is Commissioner Burns. In contrast to the Organization of MISO States, which is independent of MISO, the RSC is an integrated committee that is a part of the SPP organization. Also, in contrast to OMS, the RSC has more authority in SPP policymaking decisions, whereas OMS does not as an independent organization. And now for a brief update on MISO current issues that we're working on here at the IUC. On August 25th, MISO released the list of projects submitted in the first application cycle for its Expedited Resource Addition Study, which we refer to as ERAS. 48 total projects were submitted, and 5 of those were from Iowa. I'll note that MISO will study 10 of these projects in the first quarter, which started on September 2nd, and 3 of those 10 projects are in Iowa. Next, at last month's meeting, I reported that 5 states in the MISO region submitted a complaint to FERC about the MISO's business model for its Tranche 2.1 long-range transmission plan. Any entities wishing to comment in response to this complaint were required to do so by yesterday. The 3 of you met last Friday and voted to submit comments in support of Tranche 2.1. And those comments were filed at FERC yesterday. For the benefit of the public, I'll note that your comments make the case that reconsidering Tranche 2.1 will delay the study of all generation projects in the already delayed 2023 queue and the ERIS process that I mentioned earlier, and that some work on these transmission projects has already begun, which would need to be halted. This morning, I counted that 21 sets of comments were submitted by various entities yesterday at FERC in response to the 5-state complaint. So FERC will have a lot to consider in making its decision. And the third MISO issue I wanted to update you on is the U.S. Department of Energy's order to keep the Consumers Energy coal-fired power plant in Michigan that was scheduled to be retired in May. That order was extended until November 19th since we last met here last month. And FERC approved a cost allocation of this plant's operating costs to be shared across the north and central regions of MISO, which includes Iowa. OMS is now considering whether or not to appeal to FERC for a rehearing on this cost allocation decision. And then finally, I'll share the most current issues that we're working on in SPP. These issues are anticipated to be before the RSC in November. Just very briefly, they have to do with long-term congestion rights or LTCRs, netting of flows, the outage coordination methodology to be established as a business practice is the second one. The third issue is performance-based accreditation for conventional resources, which is an update to their business practices in policy 8,400. The fourth issue is about memorialization of the methodology to be used annually in the loss of load expectation or LOLE study. And the last issue is recommendations regarding cost allocation options for any transmission projects that may result from the annual 20-year integrated transmission plan required by FERC Order 1920. That concludes my update. I'd be happy to take any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Giddens. Any questions for Mr. Giddens on the RTO update?
So Mr. Giddens, I know that one of the items, it's not on here, but it was a planning reserve auction that took place and that there was an error in the software of that auction. And so there's some adjustments being made. I would be curious to have some sort of report or feedback on how that impacted our utilities in Iowa. So Alliant Energy, Mid-American Energy, did they receive a bill? Do they owe more? Are they getting payments back? Are they getting some sort of refund? I'd just be curious to know where our utilities fall in that spectrum.
That duly noted. We are tracking that issue that's very active at the moment. And there's a robust discussion going on in OMS right now about that. And so I've noted your concern, and we will find an opportunity to try to get that information from our affected utilities. Thank you.
And then the only other question I'd have is, you said there were 21 comments filed on behalf of, well, I guess I don't know that they were all in support of Tranche 2.1. Maybe some of them were also supporting the 5 that submitted comments. So of those 21, we submitted comments as a commission. Did anybody else from Iowa, did you see that submitted comments? Anybody in terms of the utility sector, the governor's office? Did you see any other comments filed?
Yes. So the governor's office did submit comments in support of Tranche 2.1, which, similar to your comments that you submitted. There were also comments submitted by stakeholder groups that are a part of MISO. Transmission owner stakeholder group is one in particular that our utilities are a part of. And so they would be included in those comments that the transmission owner stakeholder group submitted in support of Tranche 2.1. So those would be the primary comments from Iowa entities in support of Tranche 2.1. And just to be clear, in opposition to the complaint filed by the 5 states. So.
Just 2 more things with that. One is, did anybody file comments in support of those 5 and their complaint?
I can't say for sure yet. I counted the 21 literally an hour ago before I came in. The deadline was yesterday, and so comments were being filed right up to the end of the business day yesterday. And so there were more that I saw this morning that I hadn't seen when I left work yesterday. So those are being kind of reviewed by lots of interested folks. We're in communication with other state commissions, you know, in the MISO footprint about those comments. And it seems like everybody's, almost feels like Christmas. Everybody's trying to weed through all the stuff and see what's in the packages.
I mean, you didn't stay up all night reading the comments?
I didn't, I'm sorry. Yeah, but we're working on that.
And then the other question I have is, we had a group of states, Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan. We're going to do joint comments together. Did any other states end up joining their comments, or have you not noticed that
Wisconsin
yet?
did.
Wisconsin did join.
Did,
okay.
Yes.
All right. That's all I have for you. Thank you for the update.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Giddens, I did have an additional clarifying question on the on your MISO current issues, the DOE emergency order, keeping that coal plant open. I understand that FERC did approve cost allocation, which is an unusual move. So Iowa ratepayers under this cost allocation will be paying to keep a power plant open in another state.
Correct.
Can you talk a little bit more about how that decision transpired?
Yeah, so there's been a lot of action on this issue in different directions. And I'll do my best to backtrack and explain what happened. So this coal plant was scheduled to be retired at the end of May. And the utility, Consumers Energy, had been planning on that for quite some time. And as you can imagine, when you plan to decommission something like a large coal-fired power plant, you maybe stop doing deferred maintenance kind of issues, that kind of thing, use up all the coal, all of those things. And so 2 weeks before it was scheduled to be retired, the Department of Energy issued an order saying that Consumers Energy had to keep it operational for until August 20th. So that added a couple of months to its life, and there was no plan for how to keep it open. Literally, the utility had to figure out how to do this and had to act very quickly to keep it open. There also was no plan for how to pay for the additional costs associated with keeping this plant open. So the utility appealed to FERC to ask if FERC would have MISO spread these costs over the north and central regions of MISO, because the argument was made by the Department of Energy that the reason for keeping this coal plant operational was a resource adequacy deficiency in the north and central regions of MISO. There was a request for reconsidering to the DOE just to reconsider this whole thing, because additional information came out that seemed to suggest that there was no resource adequacy deficiency across the north and central regions. But the DOE did not act on that, kept it operational, and then subsequently extended it even further, that I just reported, into November. So now we got even additional costs that are piling up. At this point, we do know that the first month of additional operation cost Consumers Energy $29 million. That's the only dollar amount we have. at this point, but there are several months now that have to all be paid for somehow. All of those costs have to be allocated in some way. FERC approved the request to have those costs allocated and spread out across the north and central regions of MISO. And yes, we are a part of that. And so now MISO has to actually figure out how to implement that, how to, you know, actually charge ratepayers for those costs. And they're in the process of doing that right now. I mentioned in my report, my update, that OMS is considering appealing to FERC to reconsider this cost allocation plan of spreading these costs out over the north and central regions of MISO. And that's an active thing. OMS, as you know, will be voting on that tomorrow, whether or not to appeal for a rehearing. If that happens, then FERC will have to decide whether or not to reconsider that cost allocation plan. But as of now, that is the plan, is for those costs to be spread across the north and central regions. And so to be determined how much our ratepayers will actually have to pay, but they, at this point, will have to pay something for that decision. Did that answer? That was a long answer.
I think that did it. Thank you. I think it's important that we keep following this. This actually isn't the only power plant that's been subject to an emergency order to stay open. It's just the only one in MISO so far. So we're setting a precedent here of Iowa ratepayers paying for this. And so we need to follow it and kind of make our interests heard. So thank you for that update.
I just get one more thing.
Yep.
Mr. Giddens, the only other thing I should have mentioned before too is like, so there's some, I don't know if you can dig into, supposedly there's some activity with Mid-American Energy and maybe another transmission company. I think that's something that filed at FERC maybe yesterday too. But if you can get us an update on that too and dig into that and what that all entails, that would be much appreciated.
That sounds good. We're just becoming aware of that actually. Yesterday even, is that fresh. So noted as well, and we'll be tracking that, trying to learn more about what's going on.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Giddens. Next, we have Mr. Witzenberg for an update on One Call.
Good morning, Commissioners. Greg Witzenberg. I'm the Iowa Utility Commission One Call investigator. And this morning, I'm just going to give you kind of a brief explanation of the investigation process if somebody allegedly breaks One Call law, the numbers last year and the numbers where we're at this year in regard to complaints, and then also our educational efforts. So a brief overview of how we investigate. It's all voluntary. So people have to voluntarily complain. Not often does somebody say, hey, I want complaints. I tell my wife that all the time. I want complaints. And so we're working on trying to get those. And so someone has to go either to our website or Attorney General's website and file a complaint on the IUC site. It's pretty simple. It's in the quick links section. And once they file a complaint, we get an email that tells us the nature of the complaint, the alleged violation, who the party is that allegedly broke the law, what they did. And so we start that process. We reach out to all the individuals and find out the complete story. And I tell people quite often I have kids. And so when I have one child come to me saying, hey, this person or my sister did this to me, it's never the complete story. And so we'll get a alleged violation that comes in or a complaint. And I know it's not the complete story. And so we reach out, and our goal is not just to give them a timeline to respond. We give them 20 days to respond to the allegations, but we really want a complete picture of what took place. So we ask for pictures, witness testimony if need be, as well as their written version of what happened in that instance. Once we get everything together from all the parties, we'll go ahead and compile a summary. I say we packed it up a nice little pretty bow, and we passed on to all the parties, the complainant, the respondents, as well as the Attorney General's office. And then once the Attorney General's office gets the summary as well as the complete file, we give them all the information that we get. Then they're gonna make a ruling in time. And so once that's done, then the process is complete. And so last year's numbers in the one call system, according to the Iowa One Call website, there were 861,000 tickets submitted in one call last year, people asking for locates to be done on a property. That equals about 3.5 million outbound locates, whether it's marks on the ground, flags, or someone marking that it's clear. Within that, there were 7,500 dig-ins last year. And these are people that voluntarily called in to say, we hit a utility, we hit something. And so they're supposed to do it, but not everybody does it. Within that, we had a total of 57 complaints of people breaking the law last year. So out of 861,000 tickets submitted, only 57 people allegedly broke the law last year. And I tell people either we're fabulous in Iowa at digging and excavation, or people aren't saying anything. And what we've learned, it's more the latter, that people aren't saying anything. And so because of that, we have really had a concerted effort to educate people in regard to the law, as well as the complaint process, how it works. We've spoken at the Iowa Association of Municipal Utilities, at the Iowa Communications Alliance, Iowa Rural Water Association conference, and those brought good fruit as far as people asking good questions, wanting more information. And then we started a road show. Internally, we call it the road show, where we're traveling the state, and it's really to complement what Iowa One Call is doing. Iowa One Call has their large excavation safety summit every year. They're going to have it in January of 2026, and it'll have between 500 and 600 attendees. And the focus is safe excavation. And but what we realized was the rural parts of the state can't always make it, and so we've devised a plan to travel the state in 3 years, cover the entire state, and go over one call, just the one call basics, as well as the complaint process, and then answer any questions they have, but really pushing that. One of our targets also we're trying to get into is the agricultural community. It's a hard group to get into, but we're trying some different things to try and reach the farming community to make sure that one call is utilized within their operations. And the schools, we're going into schools for the first time this year. And we're going to be educating third and fourth graders. I'm on the education committee with Common Ground Alliance. It's a national group. And we've learned that if third and fourth graders know the importance of calling a locate before somebody digs, they will not let their parents dig unless they've called a locate. And so we have some schools that have graciously allowed us to come in and work with their students for 30 to 40 minutes and educate them on one call. And it won't be a traditional, it's going to be geared at kids and geared to a lot of repetition to create memory. So any questions?
Any questions from commissioners?
Yeah. I'm glad you're presenting. I don't think sometimes the public understands our involvement in the one call process. I think there's an enormous amount of things that the commission does that folks don't understand that we do. And so I really appreciate your presentation today. And I really like this going out and doing a road show. I think this is a great idea. Sometimes we can invite people all we want or be at the expo building, whatever, at the state fair and hand things out. But I think going on the road and getting to those people, I think is a great idea. And I really like the school idea. And so the education background I have, if you need any help getting into any of these school districts, let me know and we'll help you out with that. And I forget, if you're going to Osage, have you been to Osage yet or not?
October 7th.
Okay. I want to attend. I want to see that. I want to see you in
Get an
action.
appointment on that one.
Okay, thank you. So, but no, good work. I think this is awesome. And I agree with you about the kids. I mean, I can remember educating my kids on smoking and how smoking's bad for you. And it got to the point where they'd see somebody out in public smoking and make comments about, did you know that person's going to die? So, they have no filter. So I like this idea of getting them educated, and I'm going to see a bunch of little kids now and parents are planting their garden in the spring, telling them to do one calls. So I love it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions, comments? Yeah, just echoing Commissioner Burns, thanks. Really important work that you're doing. So thank you, Mr. Whitsenberg.
Thank you.
All right, next up, Ms. Raby will give the presentation on the litigation status report.
Thank you, Chair Martz, Commissioners. My name is Michelle Raby. I'm one of the attorneys for the Iowa Utilities Commission. I primarily handle litigation for the agency. Have an update for the screen. It's a little small, I apologize for that, but we'll be talking about it. The first case is Enterprise Products Operating versus Iowa Utilities Commission. This is a case that's currently in the higher courts. It's in the Court of Appeals. Enterprise is challenging the IUC's order that imposes civil penalty of $200,000 for each of 9 pipelines and or storage facilities that had not been properly permitted since Enterprise took ownership of them in 2002. So it'd been more than 20 years. The total civil penalty imposed was $1.8 million. That was 200,000 times 9. That's pursuant to Iowa Code Section 479B.73. It says on the update that no date had been set yet for oral argument, but on Monday, and this is not on the presentation, oral argument was set for Tuesday, October 7th at 2:30 p.m. And this will be on this will go on the IUCs into the docket as well. And those are open to the public. They're also generally they're live streamed on YouTube, and they're in the Iowa Judicial Building, which is the building just east of us across the parking lot. The next case is Shelby County and everyone versus the IUC. This is more commonly known as the Summit Pipeline case. This is 6 cases consolidated into one. Between all the petitioners, all the interveners, and all the respondents, there are well over 100 parties to this case. This case involves a challenge to the IUC's order of June 25th of 2024, which conditionally granted Summit Carbon's petition to build and operate a 688-mile hazardous liquid pipeline through 29 counties in Iowa. Final briefs were all filed on August 22nd. 2 things have happened since last month's update. The court issued a ruling on IUC's motion from last October to dismiss the Floyd County case. We had filed that in lieu of an answer way back in October. We had asked the court several times, both formally and informally, for a ruling on that. The motion was granted as dismissing the Free Soil Foundation on the grounds that they didn't have standing. They had not been involved in the proceedings below in front of the commission. And the individual named commissioners were also dismissed from the lawsuit. And then our final allegation in that was that they had failed to state a claim upon which relief could be granted, which is just kind of a term of art when a party doesn't believe that the opposing party has pled the case properly or brought it properly, and that was denied. So the case proceeds on. And the other perhaps most important update is that last week, after I had prepared the visual presentation, Judge Beatty set the case for oral argument. It's on October 10th at 9 a.m. in courtroom 320 in the Polk County District Court. And that will also go in the docket on the IUC's website. And that's probably an important date to everyone. The next case is Swan Lake versus Iowa Utilities Commission. The owners of Swan Lake Road Farms are appealing the IUC's granting of ITC Midwest petition to add electric franchise to add approximately 4.8 miles of transmission line in Johnson County, Iowa, that would cross the utility easement on their property. The case was argued in February. We are still awaiting the ruling from district court. The only update on this case that did not make the visual presentation is that the court has a question. I don't know what it is. The court is trying to set a 15-minute Zoom hearing to address a question, but they have not scheduled a date yet. They keep trying to schedule a date, and then there's several attorneys involved in this one as well. And The IUC, we haven't had a problem with the date, but the attorneys for Swan Lake Farms and ITC Midwest have had conflicts. So we don't have a date set on that yet, and I don't know what the court's question is. I would imagine since it's a 15-minute hearing, it's something pretty minor. The next case is the Hawkeye Land Company versus IUC and MetroNet. That's in Lynn County. Hawkeye Land is challenging the April 17th, 2025 decision of the IUC determining that MetroNet's crossing at a certain intersection in Mitchellville falls within the scope of Iowa Code Section 476.27, and that Hawkeye Land Company is thus entitled to damages in the amount of $750 for the railroad crossing at this location. In essence, Hawkeye Land is arguing that that section of the code should not apply to them and that they should receive more than $750. Answers have been filed by all the parties, and we have not received a briefing schedule yet from the court, and we're getting the record prepared to transmit over to the court. And it's a relatively short record because it's a relatively small case. The next one that we didn't talk about last month, LS Power, Mid-Continent LLC, and Southwest Transmission versus IUC and Mid-American. This is not a case, this is a case that involved the IUC, but we did not litigate it. The Attorney General's office did. The Supreme Court issued their final opinion on May 30th of 2025. They affirmed the permanent injunction limiting the utilities' participation in certain electric transmission projects awarded under Iowa Code 478.16, which was found by the court to be unconstitutional from the time it was enacted. That's the code section that gave certain utilities a right of first refusal on a project if they were already involved if they'd already placed line in the project or been involved in it. The utilities were advised in the opinion to seek any further relief as to whether they could proceed without rebidding with FERC in a federal forum. The court declined to address that issue and told them to seek federal advice on that. To the best of our knowledge, no party has done that. And then the Supreme Court did issue Procedendo on July 1st, 2025. Procedendo is just a formal proclamation from the court that it's over, meaning no party filed a petition for further review with the court, which essentially once the case has been litigated at the Supreme Court, the only thing a party can do is file a petition for further review where you ask the Supreme Court to take another look at it. Those aren't usually granted. The Supreme Court's position is usually, we've already looked at it, there's nothing new to look at. So no party requested that, and Procedendo being issued just means the Supreme Court is formally finished with it. So for all of our purposes and probably everyone's purposes, that case is over. And unless there are any questions, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Raby. It adds to my legal terminology that I didn't know before today. So any comments or questions for Ms. Raby? It sounds like you have a busy October coming up. So yes, thank you for the update. I'm just gonna double check. Okay, yep. So our next item on the agenda for discussion is Mr. Davis will present the monthly financials, grant updates, and unpaid invoices.
Good morning, Chair Martz, Commissioners Burns and Helen. Phil Davis, Iowa Utilities Commission, Accounting and Assessments Bureau. The information before you this morning will be the August actuals, which include final payments to vendors that can be included in fiscal 25 and current review of payments received. Expenses and revenues remain in line with our expectations and for both the IUC and also for dual party relay. There is also included in this a second set of financials, which are also for the month of August, but are applicable to fiscal 26. And those represent, those summaries represent expenses and revenues. Well, expenses, there are not yet revenues applied to fiscal 26 because of timing. Expenses and revenues also for the month of August 26 remain in line with our expectation for both the IUC and the dual party relay program. Regarding outstanding invoices, as of this meeting, the IUC has 98 outstanding invoices, including 27 that are 91 days or greater past due. The Accounting and Assessments Bureau will evaluate those outstanding invoices and make recommendation to leadership on next steps, which could include a final notification prior to being referred to the set-off program for the state of Iowa. The dual party relay program has only 3 outstanding invoices that meet that same criteria of 90 days or greater. The Accounting and Assessments Department will also do further evaluation of those and make recommendations as necessary to leadership for further steps. And then finally, September marks the final month for the grant periods for one-to-call and damage prevention grants that the IUC participates in. Those conclude at the end of the month of September. Accounting and Assessments will review all qualifying expenses with leadership and plan to submit that information to the PHMSA program later this fall. And just let me know if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Davis. Any questions?
Not necessarily a question, but just a comment. I think at some point in time it'd be beneficial if you'd be willing to do a presentation a little bit at a monthly board meeting on how the financials work for the IUC. I think it's interesting. We're kind of a different entity, if you will, in terms of, you know, how we function and operate financially. I think it's always interesting to, I mean, the remainder billing, I think, is kind of an interesting concept that we have here as well. But I just think it'd be interesting to have a presentation and maybe work with Ms. Beach on getting yourself a slot in one of these monthly meetings, just to kind of give us a little education on how the finances do work at the IUC.
Sounds like a great idea. We'll put that together.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Davis. We will now move to item number 4 on the agenda, other business items. We'll start with Mr. Carpenter, who will be discussing the Digital Connectivity and Lifeline Awareness Week. Mr. Carpenter.
Good morning, Chair Marks and Commissioners Burns and Helen. I'm Ross Carpenter, attorney for the Commission. I'm here to talk about the Federal Lifeline program as part of the National Digital Connectivity and Lifeline Awareness Week. For many Iowans that can't afford telephone or internet service, the Lifeline program allows them to stay connected to friends and family and provides access to employment opportunities, social services, and even the ability to call for help in the case of an emergency by lowering the monthly cost of phone service, internet service, or bundled services. The purpose of the Digital Connectivity and Lifeline Awareness Week, which began Sunday and continues through September 13th, is to make Iowans aware that through the Lifeline program, eligible families can receive monthly discounts on their telecommunication bills. The program will provide savings up to $9.25 monthly for broadband or bundled phone and broadband service, or $5.25 monthly for voice-only phone service. Lifeline is available to low-income residents who qualify based on income, which is about 135% or less than the federal poverty guidelines, or those who participate in certain public assistance programs such as Medicaid, SNAP, or federal public housing assistance. During just the second quarter of 2025, over 1.5 million applicants nationwide have already been approved for the Lifeline program. The IUC has details about Lifeline on our website homepage, iuc.iowa.gov, and we join the National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners and the Federal Communications Commission in supporting this important program for Iowans. Consumers can contact their local telecommunications provider for details or find information on program eligibility, rules, and instructions on how to apply online at lifelinesupport.org. That completes my updates, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Any commissioner questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to item 4B on the agenda, I would like to take this time to introduce a couple of new staff at the IUC. First, I'm pleased to announce that Nicole Tumeyer has started in her role of Chief Operating Officer, and I will take this time to have Ms. Tumeyer introduce herself.
Good morning. Good morning, and thank you, Chair Marks and Commissioners. I'm Nicole Tumeyer, the Chief Operating Officer. As you stated, I started here about 2 weeks ago, and I'm very pleased and grateful to be here. I've been in the utility industry for over 25 years, and I'm excited to work with the staff and lead the team to support Iowans in this changing energy landscape that we're hearing so much about. The role of the COO oversees the day-to-day operations of the commission and provides support to both you commissioners and the staff at large. I've had the pleasure to meet the team here, and we have a very talented group of individuals. We are working to develop goals and look at opportunities to find continued growth areas and map out a strategy within the agency to continue to support the state and our utility partners. So thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you, Ms. Tummeyer. We're happy you're here. Additionally, I'm happy to announce that Sanel Lisinovic has been named the new manager of safety and engineering for our pipeline division. Sanel has been at the commission for 8.5 years, and we're excited that he's taken over this role. And I will let Sanel introduce himself and cover agenda item 4C.
Thank you. So I'm Sanel Lisinovic. I'm the new bureau chief for the Pipeline Safety Engineering Bureau. About 2 weeks ago or so, we split the Safety Engineering Bureau into two. So we went from just covering both pipeline and electric to covering electric and pipeline separately. So Kevin Yerington is the bureau chief of the Electrical Safety Engineering Bureau. I'm the bureau chief of the Pipeline Safety Engineering Bureau. And this has been a want of both staff and leadership in S&E for the last few years. And with this change, it allows us to focus more specifically on our respective areas of expertise, since the way we derive our authority for both electric and pipeline are different, with electric through their adoption of the NESC in Chapter 25, and for the pipeline jurisdictions, which is what we get through the PHMSA agreement, since we're a PHMSA agent through this agreement. I'm very excited for this change. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions on those two items? Go ahead.
And Sanel, I'm going to put you on the hot spot too. If you can get with Ms. Beach at some point in time and get a slot on monthly board meeting, and I think it'd be great to hear about the PHMSA base grant, what you do with that, and it also ties into Mr. Davis as well, because that's a big part of just the operational budget and whatnot. So I think that'd be great if we could hear from you in a deeper dive a little bit on that PHMSA base grant and everything that goes into it. I know it's not easy. I know you take a lot of pride in it, and I know anytime that, you lose a point or half a point, you take it personal. And so I think it'd be important to have you present and just share that passion you have for the work you do.
We can definitely do that. And probably should do it the same day, just so it
Works.
It's take it personal in a good way because you take ownership of it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yes, we appreciate your work. All right, thank you very much. We'll go to the final item on other business, which is the operational plan, which will be presented by Ms. Howard.
Morning, Commissioners. I am Sherry Howard, an executive officer with the Commission. Good morning, sorry about that. Good morning, Commissioners. I am Sherry Howard, an executive officer with the Commission. I will be presenting an overview of the agency's fiscal year 26 operational plan. This image shows the agency is organized by bureaus. The agency has 6 bureaus listed on the left side of this image. On the right side is the responsibility of each bureau. This presentation is available on our website for anyone who would like to review the presentation and the details of what each bureau does. The operational plan, we'll get into details a little bit about it. The purpose of the operational plan is to provide an organized description of agency programs, associated operational goals, and specific action plans to describe efforts to achieve positive outcomes on behalf of the stakeholders. The revision process for, the revision process for fiscal year 26 operational plan was the draft was due to the governor's office on May 15th, 2025. The operational plan was finalized after the governor's office reviewed the draft, and that was due August 15th, 2025. And the operational plan is available on the Department of Management's website. You'll see here, the operational plan supports strategic plan initiatives, deliver exceptional customer experience, build employee excellence, and pursue an efficient and effective regulatory environment. Enterprise priorities supported are energy and government efficiency. The operational goals to achieve in fiscal year 2026, deliver exceptional customer experience, which includes goal 1, resolve inquiries courteously and promptly. Goal 2, process invoices in a timely manner. The next category is build employee excellence, encourage employees to grow in their respective disciplines. Goal 4, increase employee satisfaction. And the last category is pursue an efficient and effective regulatory environment. Goal 5, decrease case processing time. Goal 6 is implement administrative rules review. And goal 7 is conduct safe and efficient inspection programs. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Howard. Any questions? Okay, that brings us to the end of the other business items. Are there any other business items that the commissioners would like to discuss? Yeah, Commissioner Burns?
So just wanted to share publicly, I don't know if most people read press releases that come from the IUC. Don't know what level that rises to for folks, but we recently, I think it was on September 2nd. So a little education piece here. I think that's something we're trying to do more of here. But we have a National Association of Regulatory Utility Commissioners. We love acronyms within our industry. I thought education had a lot of acronyms. Utilities blow them out of the water. So NARUC is the organization that we belong to. It consists of all the membership is the basically the commissioners from all the different 50 states. It represents the entire United States. The conferences, they move around. We always have a winter conference in Washington, D.C., so we can go there, discuss policy, try to hook up with your federal delegation, talk to them about issues maybe related to your state. NARUC creates a lot of different task force, and they'll do different groups depending on what's happening within the utility sector. And NARUC's a really important group when it comes to weighing in on federal policies. We definitely have, as a group or an association, we have some influence when it comes to federal policies and talking to those elected officials. One of the things that has come out of NARUC in the last couple of years is a task force that it's basically the Federal and State Current Issues Collaborative. And so underneath the title of NARUC, the National Association, you have 5 regional groups that fall underneath that. And so we are considered MARC. And so we're the Mid-American Regulatory Commissioners. And so we fall underneath MARC. And then there's the 4 others that are regional around the United States. But part of this collaborative is to take 10 commissioners from 10 commissioners from different states, and then have a collaborative with the FERC commissioners. And so FERC has 5 commissioners, or they're supposed to when they're full. It's been a little bit of a revolving door lately. When you have administrative changes at the federal level, they can make changes to who those commissioners are. So when full, FERC is at 5. And so this collaborative is those 10 state commissioners with the 5 FERC commissioners, and then working on joint issues that impact state, federal, utility policy. Chair Martz has just recently been appointed to serve on that FERC NARUC collaborative. which is a big deal. It's really important for the state of Iowa that we have a seat at that table. We have not had a seat at that table before. And so this is a really important position that she will hold for the next year, in which she will be at the table having those important conversations with the FERC commissioners. And so I just wanted to recognize that, because I think anytime anybody from Iowa can get into a position of that nature, it's really important for our industry. It's important for ratepayers. It's important for the utilities that we regulate. It's a big deal to have that ear and to be able to communicate with those FERC commissioners. So just wanted to recognize that recent appointment that Chair March received, and just kind of educate you a little bit on what NARUC is and all that. And all of us commissioners serve different roles at NARUC. We're all on different committees. You know, there's gas committees, there's electric committees, there's nuclear, there's infrastructure, there's education. And so we all serve on different committees and collaborate with other commissioners from other states. It's important for us to have that collaboration. There aren't a lot of people that like to talk about the things that we do. And so it's nice to have somebody to share ideas, somebody to communicate with. I can tell you that my wife does not enjoy talking about utilities at home. My kids don't enjoy hearing about utilities at home. So it's nice for us professionally to have other people that we can collaborate with and talk about and nerd out, I guess, on the utility world. So just wanted to highlight that recent appointment. Like I said, it's a pretty big deal. Tricia Pridemore is the NARUC president. She's a commissioner from Georgia, and that decision was hers as to who to put on that collaborative for the next year. So again, just wanted to recognize Commissioner March for that, and congrats on that appointment. I think congrats, unless it's, and in terms of time commitment, the nice thing is they incorporate it into our existing meetings. And so it's not like Commissioner March has to go travel and do all these extra things. They really do a good job of trying to keep it logistically simple and make sure that, you know, it's not taking a lot of time from our other duties. So, but it is an important role that she's going to play. So just wanted to share that.
Thank you, Commissioner Burns. I'm honored to have been named onto this collaborative, and excited to represent Iowa's interests at kind of the state and federal venue. So thank you. Okay, we have reached the public comment portion of our agenda. I do have the sign-in sheet with the individuals who indicated they would like to make comments today. When I call your name, please come up to the podium and be sure to speak clearly into the microphone. A reminder that all comments are limited to 3 minutes per person, and verbal comments are not filed in any docket. So if you would like your comments filed in a docket, please see our customer service staff. And just a reminder, commissioners are in listening only mode today. They cannot respond to comments made at the meeting. So I will pull up the list here. Our first commenter is Mike Henning.
Good morning, Mike Henning from Greene County, Iowa. I want to give you a brief update on 2 topics. One, our current family situation, and then a new problem that you guys can help solve. Our family situation is that my mom turns 95 1 week from today, and she plans on giving up driving. So that's probably a good deal. Willard turned 100 2 months ago, and he hasn't driven for several years. So our current situation is that they expect to be moving into town from the farm into Jefferson this fall, within the next couple of months. The second issue is a problem that came up, and that is that the family that wants to move into the nice farmhouse and has fished on the farm and hunted there for a number of years is now hesitant to move there, where eminent domain will allow a carbon pipeline within 1,000 feet of the kitchen windows. They're kind of getting nervous about that. So you can help solve that problem by stopping eminent domain use in Iowa. Thank you in advance for considering this problem. Thank you. Mike Henning, goodbye.
Thank you. Colleen Tucker.
Good morning. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Colleen Tucker and I'm a fifth generation landowner from Mitchell County, and I can't quite tell if I'm more nervous or angry standing before you. When I was giving speeches in my high school speech class, I never imagined that I would be here speaking in front of all of you about such an important topic, something so emotional, so personal, and so close to my heart, and about something that could potentially be life-changing. As a freshman of this dedicated group of landowners, I'm in awe and so very proud of them for the hard work, time, energy, and sweat that they have been forced to endure because of this unwanted and unjustified project. It's hard to imagine the many hours they have spent researching, learning about, educating others, and fighting for the protection of their precious land. These hours have turned into days, weeks, months, and even into years. Plus, we can't forget about all the money that they have spent on legal fees and travel-related expenses because of this project. The definition of a farmer is a person engaged in agriculture, raising living organisms for food or raw materials. Nowhere in that definition does it state that a farmer needs to endure, tolerate, or sacrifice their property for a CO2 pipeline against their will. Because farmers are fighting for this project, they're not repairing fences, they're not fixing drainage tiles, they're not maintaining equipment and preparing for the fall harvest. Instead, they have become activists, fighting a battle they never wanted. And why? Because a private company wants to take what doesn't belong to them. Landowners shouldn't have to be here to convince the government not to allow eminent domain. This should be an easy decision. Summit, you're a private company. Nope, you don't get eminent domain. Summit made a bad decision, and we are not going to let them take advantage of us. It's time for Summit to cut their losses and walk away. A change in the leadership team is not going to repair their reputation and change the public's opinion. You can't put a Band-Aid on a broken leg. With a heavy heart, I ask the IUC to dismiss all the dockets and revoke Summit's permit. Reach down in your heart and put yourselves in our position. I think that you would be fighting to protect for your property as well. Someday it could be you, a friend or a family member that could be standing here where I'm standing and fighting for property rights. At the end of the day, this isn't complicated. We all know the difference between right and wrong. Please do the right thing and protect our land, protect our rights, and put an end to this debacle once and for all. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mary Powell.
Hi, Mary Powell, a landowner in Shelby County, Iowa. I can't believe it's been almost 2 years since I sat before you as commissioners and testified to maintain the rights to have jurisdiction over our land, our Century Farm. I ask that you continue to look into your hearts, like was said earlier, and stand up for landowners. One of the things for your operational goals is for customer service and to be there for the customers. We, the Iowa landowners, are your customers, and we depend on you. I don't know if you're aware, I had testified about our water rights, having to dig a new well potentially, and the cost for that, contamination of our water. We live in Shelby County, Iowa. There has been a drought. Shelby County has restricted water. We were to the point to having to boil our water for at least a couple of months in order to be able to drink it. Yet Summit Carbon Solution wants to come in and take more water from Iowa citizens. At what point does the commission put the needs of Iowans ahead of the needs of a private company? Do you want it to take away all of our water to the point that where Iowans are having to boil their own drinking water just to help a company that wants to put a hazardous pipeline through our land, take away not only our land, but our water and contaminate our air? I ask you to please help us. Thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Stockdale.
Kathy Stockdale, Hardin County. I'm sure you know who I am by now because I am beginning my 5th year of fighting for my private property rights. Our farm and many others have been in limbo now for those 4 years, starting the 5th. My husband and I are targeted landowners in both dockets, HLP 2021 and 0001 and HLP 2024-002. Summit Carbon Solutions has requested eminent domain on our farm in both dockets. I testified in 2023 at the IUC hearings about our highly erodible land that Summit wishes to put their pipeline through. Last year, this very parcel was affected by heavy rains that washed through that field down to the road and washed out part of the road. The county had to come and put in a new culvert under the road. This is almost exactly where Summit has proposed to put their hazardous pipeline. If this pipeline had been in the ground, we could have been the next Tarsha, and I would be dead by now probably. On phase 2 of Summit's dockets, only about 12% of the landowners have signed easements. This truly shows landowners do not want this pipeline. Hopefully this time you will listen to what landowners have to say and not move forward with the phase 2 dockets. Summit is still that wolf in sheep's clothing and not to be trusted. Landowners know this, and hopefully you are listening to us. Thank you.
Thank you. Joanne Allegretti, sorry if I get that name wrong.
Good morning. My name is Joanne and I am a Shelby County farm landowner. And I know you've heard all the stories of what's happening, but I want to share a story with you that I heard from a young woman several years ago. Many of you know about the Vietnam War, maybe not as much as I know about it because I've talked to a lot of people who were affected by it. But this one lady, this young girl told me the story of what her grandfather went through. We know that South Vietnam lost the war. The government of North Vietnamese came down and took a lot of control, killed a lot of people. But to her grandfather, they walked up and they said to him, and she said he had a piece of land that he was very proud of and his little buildings that they lived in. The government came up and said, you can keep living here, but this land now belongs to us. This sounds like the same thing Iowa farm owners are going through versus the Summit Carbon Pipeline. And I can't believe I'm standing here and saying, please don't let this happen in Iowa. But if you look back at history, one of the things strong governments do when they want control is they take the land away from the people. You're not only giving easements to a company, but you're also giving the responsibility for anything that goes wrong to the person you just stole the land from. And I don't know if any of you would be willing to do this with your house, but to allow somebody to build a pipeline, if it explodes, the person you took this easement from is now liable for all the damages, all the deaths, and suddenly they lose their whole farm to the company who took it from them. I think you really need to look into the ethics of this, the American dream of this, and I think you need to start defending the farmers in Iowa. I think you also ought to know that California has stopped the Summit Carbon Pipeline in 2022 due to water, environment, and some other issues. You might look in to see some of that. I expect Iowans to be very smart, and I always am an Iowan at heart. Please defend your people. Because if these pipelines rupture, farmers who you stole the land from are now going to lose their farms because they can't afford multi-million-dollar lawsuits against them. Thank you.
Thank you. Marjorie Swan.
IUC, thank you for letting concerned citizens speak today. I'm Marjorie Swan with my sister Ramona Jean Ritter. We own farmland in Wright County that is in the path of Phase 1 Summit's hazardous CO2 pipeline. Iowa's 99 counties are all affected by drainage ditches, as only 14 counties have no publicly maintained drainage districts according to a 2006 Iowa DNR report. This means 85 counties have at least one drainage district or ditch to maintain water flow. There are nearly 3,700 drainage districts across Iowa. The first documented case of a drain tile being installed in Iowa occurred in 1868 on the grounds of Iowa State in Ames. Iowa tile reflects a major part of Iowa's agricultural history and landowner expense that has been buried literally for generations, yet this history continues to influence farming methods today. A drainage district is a legally established area of land that drains to a common outlet. Drainage districts' boundaries are determined by the natural topography of the land and rarely correspond to political boundaries such as townships or counties. Other names for drainage districts include watershed and drainage basin. I printed off some pictures of examples for the IUC members of what is called pattern tile in Wright County. Pattern tile in Iowa refers to a comprehensive subsurface drainage system, a grid of underground pipes known as tiles that is installed to remove excess water from the soil. This network of parallel or herring bonded laterals are and a main tile drains the land, allowing for earlier planting, healthier root development, increased crop yields, reduced soil erosion, and drained fields are firmer, making it easier for machinery to operate without getting stuck in muddy conditions. This extensive and expensive infrastructure, historically built over many decades, is critical for making much of Iowa's farmland suitable for agriculture. IUC, please don't let Summit's hazardous CO2 pipeline destroy our farmland or our tile lines and property rights through eminent domain. Would you like the maps now or later that I have of pattern tile? I can bring them up to you if you want, or
Those will need to be filed in the doc.
okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Jess Mazur.
Hi, my name is Jess Mazur. I live in Des Moines, Iowa, and work for the Sierra Club Iowa chapter. And I want to talk about water because water was something that really came up towards the end of the phase 1 hearing. And so we didn't get to put a lot of the information that we've learned since then into all the materials we filed with the phase 1 docket. But water is really important, especially right now when we're talking about data centers, Bitcoin mining places, and everybody needing the water that's below our feet. Well, Summit needs our water too. They need a water permit at every single one of the ethanol plants they're hooking up to. And the problem here is we don't know how much water we have in Iowa. We haven't done a comprehensive study to see how much is down there, how quickly we're using it, and how long before it's depleted. But yet Summit needs more and more water. For Summit's 31 ethanol plants that they're hooking up to in Iowa, just the water they need for that cooling process to take the CO2 from the gaseous form, decontaminate it, pressurize it, they're going to need 3.36 billion gallons of water annually. And when you add that to the water that the ethanol plant is already using for those 31 plants, 13.5 billion gallons of water annually. We can't allow Summit to squander our public water resources. That's the equivalent of 529,000 Iowans worth of water. And the other thing too is Summit is using more water than the people in the cities and the communities that they're in. In the Lawler area, Summit would use 85% of the water that's used for the ethanol plants in cities. In Goldfield, 63%. The Poet plant in Coon Rapids, 83%. The other important thing to know about water is there's two main, and I'm simplifying it a lot, two main ways to get water, alluvial or your deep bedrock aquifers. Alluvial is the water that's closer to the surface. It replenishes with rain and precipitation. Deep bedrock aquifer water is millions and millions of years old, and once we use it, it is likely gone. Industries like power generation, irrigation, public water, industrial and commercial, most of the water that they use comes from those alluvial sources, the more renewable sources of water. Ethanol has the highest percentage of the water that it uses coming from our deep bedrock aquifers. 90% of the water that ethanol uses comes from deep bedrock aquifers. This is a major concern. We don't want to be Kansas or Nebraska. We don't want to have water wars. We don't want to have limits on what we can do, which we're already starting to see across the state that will only get worse as we have more data centers and Bitcoin mining centers. And the other thing too is Summit doesn't even have these permits yet. Yet they're somehow so far through this process, they don't even have these permits. We're not sure they can get this water. That should be completely like figured out before anything moves forward. This is too much of a risk. It's not just our property rights. It's not just our safety. It is what makes us be able to live in this state in future generations. When the public water is gone, so are the people of Iowa. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Clark.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Gary Clark, and thank you for allowing the public to speak again. We really appreciate that.
Sorry if we wrote your name down wrong.
No problem. I am a landowner with my brother and sister in Adams County. My grandfather used horses or mules to plow the fields that are there now. This land was purchased by my grandfather in 1945, 80 years ago. This land is across the road, less than a quarter of a mile from the proposed route, docket 2024-006, Phase 2 pipeline by Summit. Now that I have your attention, I want to get to my points. Point 1, Exhibit H, parcels of Phase 2 dockets of Summit Carbon Solutions shows less than 15% of the landowners have signed easements. I recommend the IUC dismiss this project that has wasted your time, your commitment, as well as your staff, to more relevant projects to which you already mentioned in the past 2 meetings here. It's also time to let the landowners get back to their farming, get back to their lives without the interruptions, expense, and stress your decisions have put on them. Eminent domain, point 2, eminent domain should not be used by any private company for private gain using governmental subsidies in the form of tax credits or direct governmental payments to no benefit or to any landowner. It's only a benefit to the wealthy and the foreign investors. Eminent domain is historically reserved for public infrastructure like roads and schools. Please use common sense to realize the misuse of eminent domain is not the best interest of any Iowans' property rights, especially the landowners. Point number 3, Summit needs quantities of water, like Jess said, from our aquifers to cool their capture systems of each ethanol plant. Iowa only has 49 groundwater monitoring wells. It's less than a third of the monitoring wells in neighboring states. Iowa does not know how much water is in the aquifers, how quickly we are pumping it out, and how long we have before it's depleted. Please keep current and future water needs for the farmers and the people that live here now. Point number 4, I have relatives in Montgomery County. It's right next door to Adams County, that have a direct impact on several of the parcels in the path of Phase 2 pipeline by Summit. Currently, the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th generations are farming this land. They live on the land and they're a quarter of a mile from the proposed route. This route is within a mile of a nursing home, elementary school, and golf course in Villisca, Iowa. In summary, I read an article the other day. It was a quote by Benjamin Franklin. The only thing more expensive than education is ignorance. If we, all of us here, still believe we are learning each day, then let these comments from today and from the past be the educations needed to make your decision that is for the Iowa landowners. By the way, my grandfather would be proud. Thanks for listening, and thank you.
Thank you. Kathy Carter.
Kathy Carter, directly impacted landowner in Floyd County. Satartia was mentioned earlier. Anybody who's had any knowledge of the CO2 pipeline proposal has heard about Satartia. Well, let me describe my community. Rockford, it's my hometown. I'm going to use my hands to talk here. Town lays here. River runs northwest to southeast through the town. The pipe, proposed main Phase 1 line, would run across the northern border of town, 1/4 mile away from the closest residences, 1/2 mile away from a K through 12 plus full-time daycare school. There's also to be a valve located in that approximate area, which would put it about 1/2 mile to 3/4 of a mile from that school. In addition to the main line, that valve location would also have 2 laterals, the volume from 2 laterals connecting at that point. So knowing the properties of CO2 and what happened in Satartia, knowing that it falls to the lowest level, follows air currents, if that pipe ruptures at the north side of town, at that river crossing, or at the valve location, either way, my town is toast. It is at serious risk, and Iowa could be the next Satartia. At every one of the meetings that Summit holds, they always like to claim that of all the CO2 miles in the country, there's never been a fatality. Well, that may be true, but they also fail to mention that there's injuries, but by federal regulation, unless a person is admitted to a hospital, it's not considered an injury. So my fear for Rockford is echoed by a lot of other communities and a lot of other people across the state, anywhere connected closely to the pipeline. I spoke faster than I intended to. Went through my notes. Commissioner Burns, I understand what you're saying about not talking shop when you get home and around other people. I had a 33-year career with the Postal Service. 23 of that was with the Postmaster. And if I talk to family or whoever else about post office stuff, eyes glazed over immediately.
Thank you. Sherry Webb?
Good morning. Thank you again this time for allowing us to speak. Commissioner Burns, we do talk pipeline at our house and we talk pipeline when we get together. So unlike you, we do. And congratulations on your new appointment, Commissioner Mars, Chairperson. So I have a couple of things that I'd like to say, and I did not prepare much today. When I'm rolling out of bed this morning at 5 a.m., and have to hit the road by 6 to make sure that I get here on time. My poor dogs are going, oh no, I don't want to eat this early. I don't want to go out this early because I know she's not going to be back for a long time. I hear my grandmother in the back of my head saying, you have to go. This is important. This was my land. It was my grandfather's land. And, you know, I hear her. So I'm here for that reason. Couple things. I don't think it's been brought up lately, but they did raise the amount that they would allow for EOR, enhanced oil recovery, to $85 per metric ton, which is the same amount it was for sequestration. So if you've listened to the news, and maybe you don't, because I wouldn't want to know either, enhanced oil recovery is being talked about by Summit. So we're talking billions of dollars and the possibility of trillions of dollars. This is tax money that you pay, we pay, and on a fixed income now, because we're retired, can't really afford some of this extra stuff. And I've always said that they're building this pipeline on our backs because they're taking our land and they're taking our tax money to pay for it. So please keep that in mind, especially if you are considering doing hearings for phase 2, which at 12% of easements signed, I don't even know why you would think about it, to be honest with you. So in the back of my mind, besides my grandmother's error, the land is the only thing in the world worth working for, worth fighting for, worth dying for, because it's the only thing that lasts. Thank you.
Thank you. That is all I have on my list for public comments. Just want to make sure I haven't missed anyone. Okay. Sorry again for the transcription error, Mr. Clark. Okay. Just one closing item I wanted to make everyone aware of. So the commission will be holding customer service training meetings for utility company professionals and community action agency staff members soon. We haven't sent out communication on this yet, but it'll be coming out any day now. So the IUC will hold 2 virtual training meetings this month for new utility and community action agency personnel to learn about the IUC. These virtual meetings will provide an overview of the IUC's regulation and jurisdiction and will address procedures for utility service disconnection, Iowa's annual winter moratorium and low-income home energy assistance program, or LIHEAP, legislative updates, and IUC administrative rule changes. These will be 90-minute meetings and are set for 9 a.m. on September 23rd and 11:30 a.m. on September 29th. Registration is requested and can be completed online by going to the IUC website, iuc.iowa.gov, or you can email customer service at customer@iuc.iowa.gov if you have any questions. So with that, I will just check with the commissioners if there's anything else to come before us today. Okay. Thank you all for coming to the monthly commission meeting. Thank you to all of our staff for facilitating and presenting today. Our next meeting will be held at 9 a.m. on Wednesday, October 15th. Information on that meeting, the agenda, and the virtual link will be available on the commission's website and on our hearing and meeting calendar. The meeting is now adjourned. Thank you.